I'm Tom Baker, this is Chasing Cars, and today I'm having an early drive in the brand new third generation Hyundai i30. To say that this new PD i30 is an important car for Hyundai would be an understatement. Not only does the i30 represent nearly 40% of Hyundai's Australian sales, but in many months the i30 is also Australia's best-selling car, so they have to get the new one right. Well, have they? First impressions suggest that they have. The new i30 is just much more sophisticated than ever, particularly as an SR, which now gets a 150 kilowatt turbo and independent rear suspension for the first time. But every i30 has to be strong. So jump in with me now and let's start finding out what life's like inside this new hatch. For context, we're sitting in the flagship SR Premium, which, like the SR underneath it, gets these lovely sports bucket seats with extended bolsters, red trim highlights around the cabin, red belts, and aluminium pedals. But life is pretty good inside every i30, because all cars get this fast and slick 8-inch touchscreen up here. Navigation is standard on all cars, as is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and the standard speakers sound alright as well. Even the base model Active's cloth seats are comfortable, but to find a really ideal driving position, you'll want to grab one of the i30s with electric seat adjustment. As for material quality, it's pretty good. Lovely steering wheel here on the SR. It's nice and soft up here, but there are some areas left over which are a little bit harsh. Hyundai have made the back seat of the i30 more spacious, and for me at 6 foot I can tell. I've got good headroom, even though this car has the panoramic sunroof which takes up some of it. I've got good legroom, it's just my toe room that's a little bit constricted underneath the seat in front of me. However, we do get a nice fold down armrest with some cup holders, and you'll notice that we've actually got air vents back here now. However, there's a bit of a quirk. You can only get the vents on models that have the dual clutch automatic transmission. You can't get them on a manual. And that's because the i30 manual still has the old school manual parking brake, and the mechanism gets in the way of the vents. The new i30's boot is up slightly to 395 litres. It's a nice good shape. You can easily get quite a few bags in there, a couple of shopping bag hooks and a 12-volt port. But the best feature is that the boot now has a false floor as well on most models, which lets you achieve no load lip and a nice flat floor for if you want to load bulky items in or out. Going into this preview drive, I was a bit worried that it was going to be a tale of two new i30s, and that's because the SR grades have an independent rear suspension, but everything else gets the old school torsion bar rear. What that basically means, if you're already bored, is that an independent rear suspension tends to be really good in hard cornering while still keeping a comfortable ride, whereas a torsion bar has a bit of a reputation for being quite rickety when you push it hard. Well, I needn't have worried because Hyundai's substantial Australian tuning arm have done a really good job of making both suspension setups feel really good. That is, plush on a good road and capable and pretty composed when the surface gets rough as well. Pretty much like an old Mark VI Volkswagen Golf, which is a pretty high bar, and actually what I own. Of course, if you want to drive the i30 sportily, you'll definitely want to go for one of the SR grades because they get a pretty strong 150 kilowatt, 265 Newton meter turbo 4. The SR really works with you in the corners thanks to that independent rear end, and the steering is also really nicely weighted. It's a nice fluid car to drive. You can get it in 2 gearboxes, a 6-speed manual or a 7-speed dual clutch auto, and the manual that I've driven out here in country roads in northern Victoria today has been absolutely lovely. Looking forward to getting the SR back to my favourite roads in Sydney. But even the base i30 Active will have enough power for almost everyone. It's now got 120 kilowatts and 203 Newton meters from its aspirated 2-litre, and it really does feel like it's got enough go. Plus, it's still pretty puntable in the corners, if not as up there as the SR. Plus, there's still the reliable old 100 kilowatt, 300 Newton meter diesel. If you get it in the auto, 280 Newton meters in the manual, which is a really great touring engine. So, the new i30 is just so much more sophisticated than the outgoing car. It's more expensive, sure, but it's now genuinely involving the drive, and it looks and feels more upmarket. First impressions are good, and Hyundai's not done. Later this year, a genuine i30 hot hatch will arrive called the N, and let me tell you, that's really something to look forward to.